Hi, I've been shown a series of videos on YouTube and on Facebook where I'm trying to show people how the Yellow Vest movement and the protests has actually been coordinated and is a UN initiative. So what I'd like to share with you is, if we look at the 2019 cover of the Economist magazine, which is a Rothschild-owned magazine, which displays the year ahead on its New Year's editions, you'll see it as a main feature which shows Leonardo da Vinci. Many have pointed out that it's the 500th year anniversary of da Vinci, hence why it's on the cover. But what significance does that have with the present day? So I'd just like to share some things with you. Now, one of the world leading infrastructure corporations is called Vinci. It is responsible for many of the roads and the speed cameras and toll booths around the world, specifically in France. Vinci has got a think tank which is responsible for the rolling out of the smart city agenda, which includes AI, autonomous cars, 5G, etc. Now, the think tank is named after Leonardo da Vinci and is called Leonard. I will leave a link to that. This is a passage from their website. Leonard took its first steps in 2017, and then the adventure picked up speed and changed scale in 2018. Vinci's open laboratory for the future of cities and infrastructure has never been more akin to the man it is named after than it is today. Every community that is imagining and building tomorrow's cities has a meeting place at Leonard, Paris. They talk of illustrating the plethora of factors that are helping to reinvent cities and their infrastructure. They are part of the Grand Paris project, which they claim no project on the scale of the Grand Paris project has been undertaken in France since Napoleon III decided to modernise Paris in the middle of the 19th century. So they're going to reinvent the city of Paris. It states the new neighbourhoods will be created around the 68 new stations, providing an opportunity to reinvent the city on an existing urban fabric. Successive consultations such as reinventing Paris, reinventing the sign and inventing the metropolis of Greater Paris have led to calls for innovative projects to shape the profile of a more open and modern France. Vinci also uses building information modelling as an essential tool. It is based on a digital model created via the use of drones and linked to a database which they claim will be a major asset in future projects such as airports. Now, bearing in mind that Vinci bought Gatwick Airport a week after the report that drones had caused a standstill. So we know who owned them drones now, don't we? So we can see that Paris is going to be built again. Plans that have been created and set in place in 2018. So therefore, agents disguised as protesters are quite welcome to smash up the infrastructure, such as the speed cameras and the toll booths, because it's all part of the plan. So then, when enough damage has been done, that's when they will use the force to stop the people, stating the need for more efficient surveillance, which will all be part of the smart city agenda. They will probably charge people for the destruction of the equipment and the infrastructure, which they would have had to remove anyway. See, problem, reaction, solution once again. And that is why we have Leonardo da Vinci taking centre stage on the cover of the Economist magazine with the famous Diluvian man and the car above his shoulder. If we take a look at the Smart City project, which discusses the urban laboratories and experiment, which was written in 2015, we can see that it points out that Paris is considered to be a laboratory city. It goes on to inform us that the implementation of the bicycle and the electric car program in Paris constitutes a compositional operation that allows for the analysis of multiple records, political, economic, and social, written into the car program. So it's obviously using data mining for the future smart city agenda. under the headline "Using the City as an Experimental Laboratory," they state that the post-automobile system urgently requires disruptive experiments and innovations by testing the most respected forms of mobility and urban organisation using the environment, and talks of how other cities are also carrying out urban innovation experiments. It states that the lab experiments include people, spaces, technology and politics, and which type of political actions produced. Last paragraph says, if one of the roles of intelligent cities is to be more effectively managing the mobility of people, objects and goods, it is interesting to examine the types of technical and social experiments carried out to achieve this objective. Don't forget, they said this is happening in many cities and areas. So not only is Paris about to reconstruct its infrastructure, but it's also part of a lab experiment for the Urban Mobility Initiative, which fits in with the meetings that were held just prior to the Yellow Vest protests, in which the EU and the UN, with the Urban Mobility Project's organisers, met in Paris with the government officials and the bankers. And the Urban Mobility Summit was also organised just prior to the protests, in which all the areas named in the description are the same areas in which protests have occurred. So where have we seen urban mobility transport mentioned before as an experiment? The same initiative that Steel and Gateshead Council are linked to. Hence why I created videos on YouTube showing the EU-funded smart city experiments being created, one of which is in Gateshead, and I've done plenty of videos if you want to go and check out my channel to find out more information about that. Well, I think that's about it, folks. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. This is Annie Logical.